All right. Good afternoon, everybody. I am Amanda Dyson. I am the Vice President of Marketing at FourKites, and I'm pleased to welcome you today to our webinar, How Supply Chain Leaders Let AI Do the Heavy Lifting. Before we dive in and meet our panelists, just a little bit of a reminder of what we're all here to talk about today. And I wanted to start with a question. You know, have you ever felt like you are drowning in data but starving for action? And if you answered yes, then you're like many of us who are dealing with a fundamental challenge in supply chains. We know that from research we've done, the average organization uses up to 5 systems to make a single supply chain decision. And what this can really result in is, blind spots and critical gaps in our data. So during our session today, we want to explore how companies are transforming operations by leveraging AI to automate routine tasks and turn that unstructured data into action, really allowing us to shift from more of that reactive to proactive decision making. Our expert panelists, who are going to introduce themselves here in a moment, are going to share real world examples of how AI-powered digital workers can actually eliminate up to 80% of routine tasks while maintaining accuracy, allowing your teams to really turn their focus back to strategic initiatives. So, really, whether you're on the beginning of your AI journey or you're looking for optimization, we hope that you'll leave today's session with very practical insights for how to harness the power of AI to enable you to create a more autonomous and intelligent supply chain. With that, I'd like to pass the mic to my colleague, Shri. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, sir?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Amanda. Hey, good day, everyone. I'm Shri Mangalampalli. I'm the Vice President of Digital Transformation Solutions here at FourKites, and I have more than 20 years of experience in the space of manufacturing and supply chain, mainly in industries such as industrial, automotive, medical devices, and even construction. And I've specifically worked heavily on digital transformation with control towers or supply chain execution space, with digital twins, and helping organizations and executives accelerate their digital transformation by leveraging tools such as AI and digital twins. It's nice to meet you all, and I'd like to pass on the mic to my co-panelist, Prabhat, to introduce himself.
Thank you, Shri. Hi, everyone. This is Prabhat Nanasetti. I am the global vertical lead for retail technology at Snowflake, and very excited to be here with Shri and Amanda and talking with our great partner FourKites on some of the real things that AI is doing in the supply chain industry. Like Shri, I've also got about 20 years of experience across the retail and consumer goods industry, from all the way from the manufacturing side to the selling and marketing side of that. So a lot of journey, a lot of data, and a lot of transformation that we are seeing both on the outcomes of the supply chain, but also within the supply chain itself.
Awesome. Thanks, you guys, so much for that introduction. I'm excited for us to talk about this today. So I know I set the stage a little bit in terms of the topic, but we have some additional material that I was hoping Shri and Prabhat, you guys could both comment on in terms of AI adoption and sort of potential, or what are some of the myths, and then some of the reality, some of the challenges we're already seeing companies overcoming as they're harnessing AI. So Shri, these are your slides. I'm going to let you go ahead and speak to them.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Amanda, for setting the stage there. So when we ask enterprises about, hey, what is the biggest barrier for you to adopt new supply chain technology or even AI, some of the responses that we get back, the biggest takeaway for us has been consistent over the years. So the first thing that they'll mention is about data quality and the ability of using the data to make some decisions. They also talk a little bit about their own technical expertise in the space and being able to use that to help make some decisions. They also are struggling with their own workflows, meaning they believe that enterprises believe that they have their own workflows, they have their own processes, and these technologies, their inability to adapt to the the processes and the workflows that are within their organization becomes a huge barrier for them from an adoption standpoint. And these are consistent. They have been consistent from year over year in terms of how they've been brought up. The good news is AI technology is changing at a very rapid pace, and that should help us address some of this, which we'll cover in the next slide. But Prabhat, do you want to add anything here?
No, and when you speak about consistency, I was laughing because we see almost the exact same type of responses when we talk about supply chain technology or really getting value from any of their data. And data quality is a big deal. And it's not just errors in data. I think that's what a lot of people think it is. But more importantly, it's having the right data, not missing and avoiding those blind spots. It's making data interoperate across other data that you have in the supply chain, and then making that data accessible to the right people and systems when they need to make those decisions. There's a lot that gets packed into data quality, but it's far more than just errors in data.
Awesome. If you could go to the next slide. Thank you, Prabhat, by the way, for that powerful insight. If you go to the next slide, I just want to pause here and think about some of the advancements with agentic AI in the world, right? So it's one thing to talk about the barriers, but the pace at which the technology is moving today is amazing. These agentic AIs are not just robotic process automations of workflows, but they are way beyond that. They are self-learning agents, meaning that you can design your workflow at a very rapid pace, but then the agents are also learning on a daily basis, on an event by event basis, to be able to improve that process at a much faster pace. The other thing that you want to think about is the modularity that this brings to table, and also the fact that these agents are also helping in reduce a lot of the manual work, the mundane activities that are happening in these enterprises on a day-to-day basis. We always try to remind our customers that, hey, the agents don't take vacations. The agents work over the weekends. They work 24/7. So there's a lot of advantage in having an agent help and assist existing team members in an enterprise in helping them in a day-to-day execution of their supply chains. Prabhat, do you want to add anything to this slide?
No, that's really being able to translate the outcomes of agents, not only for business decisions, but also the benefit it has for the people in the organizations is critical to driving a lot of that adoption.
Absolutely. All right. Excellent. So I think for the rest of the presentation, the plan is to really propose some questions to you guys. You know, we're talking about data, we're talking about AI, we're talking about overcoming barriers to entry, you know, as well as seeing some of those successes. So I've got a couple questions prepared for you that would love just your commentary and, you know, your expert insights on. We're going to start with data readiness and the challenges there. So our first question I'll put up on the screen. You know, many of these challenges are driven by long-term habits within organizations. So how would you guys suggest that leaders in supply chains adapt their approach to data governance to enable data readiness? Maybe Prabhat, we start with you on this one.
Yeah, this is definitely a critical question. And a lot of the long-term habits are not just technology choices, but they're part of the organization and the people and the processes that have been in place for many, many years. And so a true leader in supply chain is going to first start with making sure that there is education on some of the transformations, improving cross-functional knowledge. So that often includes collaboration with IT and other technologists that are critical in making sure that the data is getting to the right spot, understanding of the data itself, and then more importantly, the understanding the outcomes that they're trying to deliver. Next, as you know, as AI starts to take a hold, you know, many organizations are also understanding they don't have great processes, or maybe there's optimizations in those processes, and being able to define them and creating best practices, because that's what you want your AI agents to be following, and not just a kind of replace the existing process with the same process, but AI connected. And so those are all critical things that we see very successful supply chain leaders starting to do. And then being able to make sure that the data is governed in a proper way, that the right decision makers have access to the right data, and that there's comfort in that underlying data is critical to be in unlocking a lot of the transformation.
Awesome. If I may add something here, Amanda, I think enterprise executives need to think about this in three different additional dimensions, right? The first thing is modularity. With the microservices architectures that are coming out today in the market, it's much easier to address your supply chain issues in a modular fashion. You don't need to build an entire data warehouse or data lake, which can take you 3 years away from you in a situation where AI is moving on a week-by-week basis. It's advancing, right? So it's important to think about the modularity aspect. The other thing of it is prioritizing your critical data and focusing on that from a data governance standpoint, so that you're not necessarily trying to make it 100% accurate for your entire data, but all just focusing on the ones that are more critical, like your inventory information or your ETA information, things like that. The third aspect in this data that you need to think about is not just the data that is within the four walls of your enterprise, but also your ecosystem data. What data can you get from your suppliers? What data can you get from your customers from a network standpoint? What data can you get from your carriers from a logistics standpoint, right? And how can you enrich your overall data beyond just the data that's within the four walls? That's going to be very important. Back to you, Amanda.
Yeah, absolutely. No, those are great insights, you guys. Thank you both so much. So let's hop into our next question. And I think, Sri, we might start with you on this one. So when organizations integrate supply chain data with other business functions, what advantages do they gain over competitors that are still operating in those silos?
Yeah, fantastic question, Amanda. I think the first thing that enterprises will see is end-to-end visibility, meaning that the data is not just anymore in silos, that you can see the data and its implications across the entire ecosystem from your suppliers to customers. The second thing that you'll be able to see is improved collaboration between different functions in your organization. So that is going to be very important, because you'll not only understand why a certain task has been sent to a different function, but also the implication of that task and how is that going to impact the overall business. And then last but not the least, in fact, the most important piece is that enterprise value, right? By being able to connect this entire system end to end versus operating in silos, you will be able to see additional value in terms of inventory reductions, because there's no more just in case inventory that each functional silo will plan. You'll not have any additional material costs, because you're thinking through that entire value chain as you're planning and designing your systems. And then you'll also see a lot of efficiencies, because there's less handoffs and more seamless collaboration that's happening across the organization.
Just to add in on that, I think integrating supply chain data with a lot of the other business functions is absolutely critical, especially in the world that we operate now. And so when we talk about these other business functions, it could include other functions outside of supply chain, like marketing, HR, finance, and others. And a big part of that is the first major advantage is typically decisions are not made in a silo, and the silo could be the supply chain itself, right? When there are issues in terms of inventory, oftentimes there are multiple tools and multiple ways that you can solve that problem, and it's not just the supply chain hammer or something that you have there. And so one of the biggest advantages that bringing all this data together and creating cross-functional collaboration is lowering this hesitation factor that institutions have. Whenever something happens, there's always a hesitation to make a decision or move faster because they don't understand the whys. They don't have the ability to bring that data together, and no single function has kind of the full understanding of the implications. And by bringing data together and having that collaboration, you reduce that fog. You can act faster, And it's not just major disruptions that force everyone to do this. It can be done on an ongoing way to improve costs, improve operations, and really drive top line growth.
Such a good point, Prabhath, I think, because you think we're talking about supply chain and it's strictly limited to supply chain, but the reality is it's affecting the overall organization. I love the analogies you use of lifting the fog and removing that sort of hesitation, which is a barrier because people are afraid to act on data that they don't have, on the unknown. So I think that this is incredible and would absolutely be advantageous for these companies.